Hello, it's me, and I've been asked to do an emergency request on this puzzle over here. This is a Whit-Eden puzzle. It's kind of a confusing name, but an SQ224. I'm not sure what the SSQ stands for, super square perhaps, which would make sense. So I'm just going to call this a super square 2x2x4, which kind of makes sense. Anyway, looking at the puzzle, it actually kind of looks like a 2x2 with a little sandwich in between here, but moves like a 2x2. You can actually solve the top and bottom like that. But this over here actually can scramble in various strange and confusing ways. It shapeshifts like this. So when starting to solve a puzzle, the first step is perspective. What kind of a puzzle is this? What kind of strategies can I use? Is this reminiscent of another kind of a puzzle? Well, I think the name Super Square 2x2x4 is pretty indicative of what direction to go with this, because basically what this is a square 2 puzzle. Basically, it's a square 2 puzzle sandwiched in between a 2x2. That's really all this is. So if you know how to solve this guy, then you know how to solve this guy. Now, a super square 2 puzzle is kind of like a square 1 puzzle, only you have extra movements that you can have with these corners. So you shapeshift over here. Now notice this move here is exactly like if I were to turn this to the side, move it over here. So you can see that this resembles this structure pretty much exactly. So it's the same kind of movements. It's the same type of a thing where you can do tiny little increments of movements like that. The difference though is that these pieces over here, these corner pieces, are equivalent to these edge pieces over here. So these are like edge pieces. So this edge and these two here are equivalent to each other. These two pieces here collectively are equivalent to corners. So though these are centers here, they're corners in a square 1. Although this is an edge piece over here, well, corner edge I guess, this is an edge piece over here too. Now notice that you have just one of these, but you have two. Well, that's why it's just like this, where you can take this move over here and separate it out. Well, so too, these together, I can do the same thing. I can move it, say, in this position and separate this out. So this motion that I did here between these two pieces is exactly the same as, say, these two pieces. So these are exactly like the corner pieces here of a super square 2. Now, I'm sorry, as a square 2. There's no super square 2 that I know of yet. So I would encourage to those who have questions on this puzzle right off the bat, before even continuing with this, go ahead and take a look at the Super Square 2 tutorial, or rather the Square 2 tutorial, to talk about the aspects of how to reduce these edges. And then look at the Square 1 tutorial and see if that acts as a guide for you. So I would go ahead and do that first, because really that's all you're dealing with here. It's the same kind of a thing. So now, if you don't have these puzzles, but you do have this, and you don't know how to solve these and you've never been through that, I am going to be referring to various kinds of algorithms, but it's not completely necessary. So I'm just going to kind of pick it up as an independent puzzle, but I'll tell you, if you can familiarize yourself with the square 1s and the square 2s, you'll know what I mean. So looking at how this puzzle scrambles, we can start off with a 2x2 scramble. Just come across here and here. It'll scramble just fine by itself. Maybe separate these guys out over here, just do 180 degree. Kind of get you in the mood for some scrambling and solving. So you can see that it's pretty limited over here. Now what we're going to do is we're going to start to delve into the scary parts, the parts that have probably gotten a lot of people very nervous. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just start doing an oblong shape over here. Starting off with this, we're going to start shape-shifting the center. So starting with this, make a turn over here, then I'll make another turn here and here. Now unlike the square 1s and square 2s, I can go to multiple layers and do turns. Couldn't do that before, or multiple axes here. And I'm just going to continue to separate these out here as well. Turn over here, here. So you can see very quickly it's starting to look very scary, but we're going to see if we can't provide some kind of a perspective with this puzzle. A little bit more scrambling here perhaps. And turn, turn. So this can actually scramble even more completely than the square 2 because of the multiple axes that you can turn it at. Okay, now that we've done that, we're going to go ahead and do an entire 2x2 scramble. Turn, turn, And I'm just going to keep going around. Now there's much about this puzzle that I like, and there's some of it that I don't particularly care for. But one of the things that I enjoy is that it's a small puzzle. It's very portable. You can easily take it from place to place, and it provides a pretty good challenge. If you know how to do square 2, even if you do that, it's a nice perspective bender, so it has all the components that I like in puzzles. The problem though is that sometimes you have to move very small pieces in very small increments, and when it does that, it can potentially snag. Now, I only popped a piece once with this puzzle, but it has made me very cautious every time I use this. But anyway, there we have it. So here's a nicely scrambled 2x2x4 SSQ super square puzzle. I like the way it looks when it's scrambled. It looks all jumbled up. Tiny pieces are coming out of nowhere. And people can look at this puzzle and think, how the heck can you possibly solve this? Well, we're going to provide some perspective with that. Now, just to give you a little bit of perspective, even though you might not have seen these puzzles before, I'm going to go ahead and scramble these as well, just to give you a little bit more feel of what I'm talking about here. Now, if you notice, the scrambling of these puzzles is a little bit more restricted. I can't move it over here. I only have one place to move. So in some ways, it is a little bit more restricted. But I'm going to keep scrambling these guys. So the first step is we're going to do a 2x2 solve. And a 2x2 solve is to get it back into its native shape, where I just have to deal with these two layers of all these tiny pieces over here. Now, needless to say, I'll assume knowledge of a 2x2 solve, but basically if we're to start off with the yellow side, find the other yellow cube over here. This one isn't the right color, but this one is, so I'm just rolling that in with RIDIRD. I'm going to put the other ones in here, the other yellow ones. Yellow and blue, here's yellow and blue, so I'm just going to pop that up here, move this down to here, then do my RIDIRD. So we're good. Now for this over here, first thing to do is bring all of these up. RIDIRD, RIDIRD. This is up, move the next one in line. So do the 2x2 solve of your choice. Turn, 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 turn. I'm just doing this for ease of demonstration, RIDIRD, and I'm just showing how these pieces are just handled as a 2x2. Gotta be very careful I don't pop the pieces here. I'm just kind of letting them fall as they may. And now finally here. So I'm just ignoring the middle. It's just a jumble of junk anyway. And now I've got all these up. I've got to permute these right. So I'm just going to do a corner swap to our U, to our UI, to R. Turn the puzzle to our UI, to our U, to R. What I just did was an adjacent corner swap that's going to become useful later. I see the two corners that are lined up. Then I do a corner swap of these two to the right side, to our U, to our UI, to R. Turn the whole puzzle counterclockwise, to our UI, to our U, to R. Okay. We can put this in line, and so we have our 2x2 solve done. Now, what do we do about these guys? How do we solve these? So, like I say, this is basically a basically a square 2. So the first step that you do, just like you do with a square 2, is you want these edges, these corners rather, to look like these corners. So you want to reduce these down together. So what we do with a puzzle like this is you take the one that's supposed to go right opposite there. It's not going to be the orange and yellow. It's actually going to be maybe the orange and blue, or orange and green, something like that. What you could do now, this isn't really a tutorial on this kind of a puzzle, but I've got the middle one lined up here, and I can see that if I have this as the yellow side, orange, I have to put a green one here. The basic technique is I'm going to find the orange and green, which is right over here, move it to the opposite side. This one doesn't belong with it, so it's got to be this one. So I've got to move this one down, so I'm just going to move this down, bring this to the side, and simply move this up. So I've got this here, and I'm just going to keep following suit. I'm just going to keep putting the other ones in, being careful as I'm doing that not to destroy ones that are already reduced. So with the white ones, I've got red and green already here. Is that correct? Yeah, so this one is already done. Here's the blue. I need to find the blue and orange. I've got a blue and orange over here, but I've got a sneaking suspicion that's not the right one. So it's probably going to be this orange, which is going to come to here. So I want to move this into here, but I got to be careful because this is here. So in order to move this out of the way, I'm going to bump it to the side, and I'm going to move this out of the way to here. move this out of the way to here, move it to the side, and then move it back. And hopefully that will have gotten that out of the way. So now I got that out of the way, and I can simply just move this in like here, splat. Okay, so basically what we're going to do is we're going to do the same thing here. We would finish all of the reduction here, and then we get into this part over here. Okay, so this is what this is like when everything's been reduced. Now, the similarities with this middle piece is exactly like this top and bottom piece. It really functions the same way. So in many ways, this is actually easier than this guy because you have to kind of plan out what's the color right next to it. Well, this is easy because it's the same color. So I'm going to be pairing these middle pieces here. These middle pieces are equivalent to the corner piece over here. So I'm just going to pair things up of the same color. Let's see, here's a green, and here's a, well, this green is already paired up. This is paired up over here. So I'm just going to find another green on the other side over here. And there's this, so ideally speaking, I'd take this and I'd move it down into here. Now let's make sure we're not destroying anything, and we're not. So I move it in, and that's fine. Now before I move this back, let's go ahead and put another one in place. So we're going to put this red one in place. Now, this is going to be kind of the straight edge over here. I don't want to line it up here because it's going to, even if I find another red one, it's going to look like this. It's going to be kind of domed, or it's going to have an overhanging edge. So I'm going to line it up over here, and I'll find another red. Here's another red here. Let's see if this is a good culprit on the other side. Put it over here, and it's not, because if I put it here, even if I could, it'll be messed up with that. And I move it here, you can see it's an overhanging edge. Now we see trouble over here. I can't do anything in this position anyway because it's going to mess up with this. Rather than haggle with that, let's just put another color in place. Now this is what I mean about the movement of this puzzle, and I don't want to pop anything. So this is here. Let's see if this orange can line up with this on the other side. Turn, turn, and see if this can line up over here, and the answer is nope, it won't, but I've got plenty of other oranges to choose from. Like this one over here, this guy. So this one can do it. Let's make sure it's not destroying anything. It's not. Move it in, and so we have another one. Here's a blue one. Let's line the blue one up here on the top. Let's get another blue one on the other side, and that's going to be on the bottom. So let's just keep moving this around until we get a blue one in place. And there's this, but let's see, this blue one is on this side, so this one has to be on this side. It's the wrong blue, so that's not really going to work. But maybe it'll work with another one. So I'm going to stick with the blue here. Blue on the bottom. Is there blue on the top I can use? I move this over here, and this one I can use. But there's danger because of this green one. So let's now just move the green one out of the way. Oh, actually I can't use this because it's on the wrong side. However, nope. Still can't do it. Move it around. We can use this one. So this can probably pair with, oh, maybe not. Yeah, okay. So this can pair with this. This green one is still a problem, so here's what we're going to do. I'm going to move this to the side, and I got to bump this out of the way. So moving it to the side, I'm going to take it, move this up here, and just bump it out of the way by moving it one click here and then moving it back. After doing that, I can now, and actually when I moved it back, I actually put a red one in. See? That was fortuitous. Bring that into there, bring this into here, and make sure we're not destroying anything, and we're not even the newly made red. And I'm just going to move this into here, and now I've lined these two up. So we're just going to keep doing this. No algorithms are needed for this, just strategy. Now, I'm a little cognizant of what's happening with these colors, but that's easily placed, so I'm not really worried about that. That's not going to be the deal maker or breaker. So I've got an orange one here, but I don't have a good orange one on the bottom that I could use. So here's a blue one. Do I have a good blue one on the bottom? And I don't, so I can tell that I'm going to have to do some moving around. Okay, so I'm just going to make a movement like this, just to kind of shake things up a little bit. But it probably would be better if I took all the ones that are on one side down also. Okay, down it goes. Now let's see if we can find something a little bit more doable here. Okay, so I've got this. Is there an orange that I can use? These are paired up already. And here's one. So let's see if this can make sense. Now the more I do, the more I'm going to have to fish around a little bit. Okay, here's this other orange. Bring this here. And now I can move this in, but this red is going to cause me some trouble. So I got to get the red out of the way. I'm just going to move the red one click. And in so doing, make sure I'm not going to destroy anything else. I'm not. Bring this up here. Now, bear in mind, it's this red that I don't want to end up moving this red down to here, but I'm going to move this over here. Move this by one click this way to get this red a little further out of the way. Make sure I'm not I can't do that there because that'll destroy that. So I'm going to move it over here to get it out of the way. Make sure I'm not destroying anything or not, then I'm going to move this back down. Now I'm going to find my orange, line it up again, which is right here. This red is now out of the way, and now I can move this into place, splat. So now this is in. Okay, I happen to see a blue one right here. So I'm going to want to try to find a blue one on the top, and I don't, but there's a blue one here. So what I'm going to do, since I'm not going to destroy anything, is just do movement like this. That put the blue one on the top, so I'm just going to turn it around, oh so carefully. And now this blue, this here has to make it to here, and I'm not going to destroy anything, so I got lucky, moved it in, and now this is paired. So this may take a little bit of effort, but just keep trying it, you'll get it. Here's another red, move this into place. So anytime you're in a situation where you're about to destroy a couple, just bring it up, move it out of the way, and bring it back down, and then try it again. So I'm going to bring this over here, and now this is in danger, so I'm going to move this out of the way. Bring this across, move this by one, click this way, and then I'm going to move this back down, making sure I'm not destroying anything. Now that I've done that, move this into place. Am I going to destroy anything? And no, move it in and done. So basically we have all of these reduced. These are all done, and I've got the top and the bottom here. So this is equivalent to this. All the edges are in, and all the edges here are basically reduced, which is the equivalent to the corners over here. So now the next step. Well, in every square one solve, whether it's a super square one or a square two, you have to get it back to the cube form. To get that, basically what we can do is begin with the end in mind, which means I know where I'm going, so I can kind of guide where I want to get to. I want to get to the square form, so how am I going to do that? Well, what I'm going to want to do is, see these corner pieces over here? These corners are equivalent to these edges here. I'm just going to call these, I'm just going to call these edges from now on. What you want to eventually do, ultimately, is you're going to have all of these edges, these pieces over here, up to the top. So they're all going to be up to the top, and it's going to kind of resemble a fish, so to speak. So that's really what you want to do. The step that you do before that, there's actually two goals that you want to do as you're meandering your way through this part. Number one, every time you see an even number of these, like there's these two, you want to keep pairing even numbers up with each other, because you can keep building it that way. The other thing that you want to try to endeavor to do is make a series of 5, 1, 2, 3, and maybe 4, 5. The reason that you do that is because you can get something called a fish's tail, what I call a fish's tail. And that's sort of a step before you can do the final move to put it in place. Using this square one to demonstrate that, sometimes it can look like this. Okay, so this looks a little more complicated, but let's apply the same rules. I see two over here. Now, here's what I mean by a fishtail. See this over here? Two edges, two corners together. I've got two corners flanked by two edges over here. Now bear in mind, these pieces here are equivalent to these pieces here. So in any case, this is a fish's tail. It looks just like this. It looks just like, now let's get this in right here. This is the tail of the fish. I know it's kind of hard to see with the square two arrangement, but this is the fish's tail here. So I'm going to kind of conserve that. I see a pair over here and a pair over here. I see one over here. So I'm just going to match up the pairs as best I can. And I'm not able to do that because I can't move it independently. So that's not really going to work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start trying to make maybe 5 if I can't do my evens together. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to sort of destroy my fish's tail, I guess, move this in here, so now I have 3. put 2 more in there and I'll have 5. So there's this. I'm going to move this to the side. It won't come in that way. It won't go in that way either. So I'll do it one by one. One of these are going to work. Okay, so maybe I can move this to the side. So for me, this is a lot of trial and error kind of a thing. So here's 3. Okay. Yeah, so this part is kind of an interesting challenge. I'm going to maintain the fishtail here, move this in here, so I have 3 here. So what I'm doing is I'm just positioning to try to get my 5 if I can. So 1, 2, 3. I've got 2 over here. This can move over here. And this can move here. So I move this in here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Now that's an important part because if I have 5 here, then there's a possibility of getting a fish's tail. In this case here. So just by forming a 5, we'll probably be able to get the fish's tail over there. What I'm going to have left over is 1, 2, 3, 4, an even number. And then I've got this, which is an even number. So I'm going to move this over to here, take my fish's tail out of commission while matching it up with my even number over here. I go like this, 2, and that's what I want. So I have this string of even ones here. I've got my fish's tail over here, and I just combine the tail to here. So that's really what I mean by that. That's the configuration that I'm looking for. You might not be able to visualize a fish's tail here, or even the fish, but at least you'll be able to see all of these edges will be together, together here, and all of these corners will be together here. Bearing in mind, these are the corners here, and these are the edges over here. So the question is, can I get the fish's tail, so to speak? So that's what I'm looking for. I want a configuration where all of these are in one layer, which means all of these are going to be in one layer. With some of them in the layer here, but there's going to be one layer purely with all of these. So what I'm going to do is same kind of thing. These represent the even number or odd number. So 1, 2, I see 2 even over here. And I see 2 even over here. So I'm just going to put these 2 together. This will come over to here. Now this is 1 by itself. This is actually 3 over here. So I miscounted 1, 2, 3. If I put these 2 with here, I'm going to have a string of 5, which means I can create possibly a fish's tail. So I'm going to move this over to here. Now I've got to be wary that I'm not going to destroy one of these corners, but honestly the likelihood of that is very low at this point. So I'm going to move this into place. And this comes over to here. And this can't move because this will destroy it. So in this case, it will be a problem. So what I'll do then instead is I'll move this into here. Line this up. Whoop, actually, move this over to here. So I'm lining it up so it can move into this spot here. But I actually can't move it into that spot because this will always be destroyed. So I'm going to have to move it from here. Nope, then this will make it destroyed. So I'm kind of stuck. This one really can't do much moving, which is an interesting configuration because it's always going to get stuck with something here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to abandon that. I'm just going to try to move this into place. And maybe what I could do is I could I'm just lining this up over here. Maybe this can be put into, well, no. And let's see. Right now I'm trying to see. I'm having a little bit more problem than usual with this. So this is interesting. This really isn't allowing a whole lot of motion here. So that's not going to move so good here. And that's not going to move so good here. Okay, this is the only move that's open to me. So this even number of edges here, I can't do anything with it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move this out of the way like so. Splat. Now I usually don't get that kind of configuration with the square twos. I think maybe it's because of all the possible movements that I can do here. So now I've got 3. I'm still going to coordinate where I can put 2 more to make 5. And there's my fish's tail. wouldn't it be nice if I can coordinate this without destroying something? So move that here and move that here. I'm not involving any edges here or corners here. I'm going to call these corners now. But I am involving this, so that's going to be a little bit of a problem. So instead, there isn't really, I'm going to have to move this to the side here and see if maybe, okay, so this is open to me. This is available to me. So I'm going to move this to the side. See these small motions. So these two I'd like to put into here, but I can't because this is blocking it. So I'm just going to move this to the side, and one is better than nothing. So I'm going to put this in, splat, and now I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. I think because of the variability of motions with this, that's why it's a little more difficult than these guys over here. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and all I have to do is put one more of these to have my 5. So I'm going to move this to the side, and luckily it doesn't destroy anything, and now I can move this one in. So again, my whole goal here is to try to get a string of 5. So this will come to here, and let's see what we can do. Remember, my goal is to get a string of 5 if I could. Why? To make a fishtail. Let's see. Well, actually, this might not work. It's actually not going to work because this has to be the one to do it. It's going to slice in the middle of this. So maybe one of these. Maybe one of these guys over here. So this will work. Move this in, and I've got it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, how am I going to use this as a fishtail, so to speak? Well, the fishtail is going to be 2 of these pieces here, which I'm going to call my edge pieces, and sandwiching 2 corner pieces. This here, these here are my fishtail. This is equivalent to these guys here. 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I can use that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to separate that out. So this is going to be what's going to move that together. So it's going to be this piece over here, this edge piece, corner, pair, edge. I hope it's not confusing when I call those edges and corners. But then what I'm going to do is I'm going to start moving these in singly as well. So this isn't going to do too good over here. So why don't we try this edge piece over here, and that'll work just fine. So what this is going to do is take this fishtail out of commission away from this 5, and I'm going to move this one in, splat. Now what I did is I took this fishtail out, but created another string of 5, and when I did that I created the possibility of another fishtail. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can see that it's not a fishtail from this direction, so it's going to be from this direction. Here's an edge piece, corner pair, edge piece. Now this is good because now I have another fishtail here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this just under and across from the other fishtail, and watch what's going to happen when I do that. Line this up here. This is the first pair, this first fishtail up here that I moved out of the way. This is the next one that I'm going to create out of this string of 5. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this up. When I do that, these 2 fishtails will cross, and I'll end up with 2 pairs. 2 pairs of 2. So I go like splat. I've got 2 pairs here and 2 pairs over here. So now all I have to do with that is take these 2 and put them into the string of 4. So now I'm doing evens on evens. So that's another way of doing that. Keep this lined up. Now because these are pairs of 2, I'm not going to bisect into these. So this will simply come here, splat. Now all I got to do is take this one and move this in as well. So I'm going to take this and move this to here, splat. Now believe it or not, this is my fish. But the way to tell is that I have one side that just has these corner pairs. So an entire side with just corner pairs, and another side that has all of my edges on one side. Now if you don't like this configuration, that's easily fixed. I forget which was white and which was yellow, but I'm just going to move this over here, take white below white or yellow below yellow, turn it, do 2R and turn it again. That'll get those back. So now I'm ready to kind of move this into the square form. The way to do that is you're going to go right in the center here. I'll also do the super square one over here. go right in the center here, and just do a 2R, you're going to end up with this shape over here, where you have 1, 2, 3, 4 corners, 1, 2, 3, 4 edges, 4 corners and 4 edges. You move them right on top of each other so that they're completely lined up, and do another 2R. You're going to have what I call a butterfly shape. You're going to see it better with this one. With this, you bisect one down the side and the other one down the length of it, and do another 2. You end up with this situation, this shape over here. Now this is easy. You just line them up so that they're symmetric, that they're on top of each other. Do another turn, and you have it back to the square. If you don't like this, just go 2R, and just go 2R, 2U, 2R, 2U, 2R. So there it is, back to the square form. Let's show it with this guy here, just for practice once more. I'm going to move this over to here, bisecting right down the middle, 2R. I'm going to have this 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now you don't have to memorize that, because all you have to do is move them so that they're symmetric, right on top of each other. Double turn like this. You kind of see the butterfly shape here? So one of them you turn where it's bisecting down the middle in between the 2 edges. The other you bisect it in between the corners. So edges and corners, move it here. This is the last step before you can get it back. You have this configuration that looks kind of like a shield. Then you just turn it to here and to here so that these 2 corners are just above and below each other. Do another turn, and you're back to your square form. So we've done it. Now let's apply that to this puzzle over here. And this puzzle over here, what we're going to do is we're going to go right in the center here, bisect this down the center. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's going to be right here. I'm going to put this in position over here. Make sure that you're not bisecting into these reduced corners, and move it over here. This is going to be that similar situation that we had when you had 1, 2, 3, 4 edges next to each other over here. What you're going to do now is you're going to line it up so that all of these edges, these prickly edges, are right on top of each other. They're gonna fit together snug. Just do another 2R. This is actually that butterfly conformation, but for our sense and purposes, both sides are going to look the same. You're going to have 2 of these edge pieces next to each other here, and opposite side, flanked opposite, will be edge pieces here, reduced corners here and here. So in one part, you go through the edges, and on the other one, you go through the corners, just like this. So edge, edge, corner, corner. Don't go into here, not through the reduced part, just to the side here. Go ahead and turn. And now what you're going to do is you have this shape here. It might look familiar of what you saw over here. You're once again going to see 2 of your edges over here. Line this up. Line the bottom one the same way. So they're going to be symmetric. They're going to look exactly the same. One more 2R and you've got it. And now we've got it back to the square shape. So now we're square. So now this configuration is the same as these configurations. We can even line up our 2x2 solve. And now the next step is to put these in the right layer. So how do we do that?